Am I the asshole for calling the police on my fiance? Last night my 35 male fiance, 38 female, left in the evening to give a friend's son a ride back to his home. She implied she'd be home before 9. She left at around 7:45. 10:15 rolled around and she still wasn't home. I texted and she apologized to me, saying that her friend's son was actually in the next town over, maybe 30 minutes away, and she was coming home now. 11:45 rolled around and she still hadn't come home, so I called her to no answer. Texted her to no response. I was getting very upset. 12:30 rolled around and still no response and no answer to my phone calls. I was extremely angry. 1:30 rolled around and my anger had completely transformed into worry. Not answering my calls and texts not read. Around 1:45 I called the police. I have always heard that the first 24 hours of someone being missing is the most important, so I didn't want to delay. I asked them to let me know if there had been any traffic accidents involving her car, and the operator told me that they would put out the word and send some cops to check along the route she would travel. I called all the hospitals in the area to check if she has been checked in, and I waited outside watching the road for her car for 3 hours, partially because I didn't want the kids to hear me on the phone with hospitals, and secondly because I was sick with worry. At 7 a.m. she came home. She apologized for being out and said she had no excuse. She was driving home and felt tired, like she was falling asleep at the wheel, so she pulled over to the side of the road to sleep. When she did that, she found that her brand new phone had stopped working. She says she napped anyway because it was the responsible thing to do, and then came home at 7 a.m. to bring the kids to school and get to work on time. I immediately called the police and told them that she had come home safely and gave them the case number and told them to stop searching, which they did. My fiance brought the kids to school and left for work. I set out to start cleaning. Cleaning de-stresses me sometimes, and I got a call from a policeman asking where she worked. I told him, and asked why, and I was informed that it was their policy to check on the person's wellness after a missing person is found. I asked them to not go by her work but to give her a call instead. He said he couldn't promise. My fiancé is relatively new to her job. A police officer showed up and asked to speak with her. She is now enraged at me for calling the police and sending a cop to her work, and making her look bad. She is saying I overreacted and that she wasn't missing and that I was punishing her for doing the responsible thing and not driving while drowsy. She is saying that she is never going to leave the house again except for work, because she is afraid I'm going to call the cops on her again. So did I overreact? Should I have waited 2 days like she suggests? Not the asshole, but you know she's lying, right? I do suspect that the story isn't truthful, but she doesn't really have a history of lying to me, so I've been trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. Oh no, her whole story is a big fat lie. She told you she would be home by 9, but somehow was wrong about where the kid lived? Did she not know the town beforehand? Did she just start driving 30 minutes and then the kid goes, oh no wait, I actually live in XYZ, not XXX, that part of the story doesn't even make any sense. So she ended up changing the time, then she got tired, and pulled over and napped on the side of the road? You do realize that if police were looking for her on roads where she claimed she would be, and she was napping in her car on said road, they would have found her, right? And then her new phone just happened to not be working? Despite the fact that that simply does not happen, and even if it wasn't working properly, she still could have called 911. That's not even mentioning the fact that I don't know a single woman, myself included, who would pull over on the side of the road and sleep in her car with no phone. Edit. Please stop telling me that you are a woman and that you've slept on the side of the road in the middle of the night. That's like bragging about keeping your front door unlocked and then saying, well, nobody has ever broken into my home, so it's obviously fine. They say ignorance is bliss, but ignorance in the case of refusing to acknowledge how frequently women are assaulted, kidnapped, etc. is disgusting. From a fellow woman, it's not something to be proud of. I read the news constantly. It's insane how often terrible things happen to women. You should not advocate for women further putting themselves in danger or act offended that other women are so cautious. Especially the timing. Who sleeps from midnight to 7 a.m. in the car on the side of the road? A woman too? Not a 2-hour power nap, but all night? And she came back conveniently in time to pick up kids and go to work. It keeps bouncing in my head that this is literally a woman we are talking about. As a woman myself, I don't even feel safe walking to my car at night, even outside my own house. And you're telling me this woman pulled off on the side of the road and slept for 7 hours with a broken phone? Yeah, that doesn't sound right. An actual portrayal of that evening, somewhere, in a bed around 2 towns over from original poster's house. 12 a.m. him, babe, don't go, just stay the night once. Say you fell asleep in the car on a 30-minute drive. Let's turn off the phone and go to sleep, her, hey why not? But make sure you set your alarm for 6 a.m., so I can get back to take the kids to school. Bin. Go. Not the asshole. I don't believe her story one bit. Driving a kid home and disappearing for the entire night is a massive red flag. How does she not even know where he lives when she started the drive? How old is this kid? Pulling over and sleeping on the side of a road for a 30-minute drive is nuts. She is now turning this around to say she is the victim of your actions. The kid is 17, I believe. She was picking him up from somewhere he was at, I don't remember where, and bringing him home to her friend. Dude, her story is full of holes. You believe her? Did she maybe hook up with the friend's son or the son's dad? You're not the asshole, BTW. You were concerned. Maybe she should be more responsible next time. Is there even a friend's son? I think original poster is one clueless fiance. Geez. I think your fiance is getting railed 2 towns over my guy. If not getting railed, def's doing SRS drugs. Honestly, drugs was my first thought. This is exactly the type of bullshit I'd say to my boyfriend when I'd go get high. Didn't want to stop partying, so stayed out all night and would still be high when I came up with a ridiculous story. If it were an affair, you'd think she would have come up with a believable alibi before she left and wouldn't have said she'd be back at a specific time. Sounds like me when I'd go, okay, I'll just do a little. Then a little turns into a lot. Then you just say fuck it, it's already 1 a.m. Ema, just have fun and stop responding to the phone and deal with the aftermath later. Hate to throw myself into op life, but yeah, my ex did this. Kept not coming home, and magically, his phone died. Every time. Turns out he developed a coke addiction. Not the asshole, but you know that isn't the truth, right? I did ask her about why her brand new phone stopped working, and she eventually confessed she dropped it in a puddle. But when she got home, it seemed to be working. Edit. I think this would be more believable if it had rained in the last few weeks. EDIT2. My fiance has informed me that she was embarrassed, but the truth is that she dropped it in the toilet, not a puddle. I'm sorry, but that edit made me laugh out loud, not the asshole. And if I were in your shoes, I'd be very suspicious. She's lying, and not doing a particularly good job of it. Lying is disrespectful, but lies this flimsy are heaping additional disrespect because they're broadcasting that they don't even really care if you believe them or not. And then applying a move right out of the liar's playbook. If they react at all, just get mad at them for the reaction so that the fight becomes about that and not the real issue. Not the asshole. She said she was on her way home at 10:15 p.m. and then disappeared until 7 a.m. Of course you were going to call the police and have them go looking for her. If she'd been in an accident or worse, she would have been dead if you'd waited 2 days to call. That being said, she's definitely lying about what happened. It honestly sounds more like she fell asleep at her affair partner's place and concocted that bogus excuse to cover her ass. I know everyone is saying affair, but this really reminds me of my stepmom at the height of her pill addiction. She actually would pull over on the side of the road and sleep it off. Often. She did it even with my underage siblings in the car on the way to my house once, a full hour spent on the side of a 2-lane highway. She had cops wake her up and they laughed about her being a tired mom. Original poster is definitely not the asshole, but I just want to throw out another perspective. I was about to comment that the only woman I know that has willingly slept on the side of the road at a random place is my aunt that's always on something. Not the asshole. Something is up. That excuse doesn't fly. It just doesn't make sense that she'd sleep all night in her car to avoid a 30-minute drive home. I don't blame you for calling the cops, and her reaction is out of line. I think she's hiding something. If her friend's son was 30 minutes away, then she should have been back by 9. I'm 95% sure she's lying to you about where she was. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news here. Full moon last night though. Oh woo. Oh, here we go with the old, I'm actually a werewolf, line again? Babe, I was stuck out late due to the physiological realities and biological imperatives of living in an ABO universe. I'm so sorry, I'll never forget to take my blockers again, is legitimately a better excuse. Not the asshole. But even if that phone was dropped in a toilet, it was working when she got home. It is policy for them to check in person because they have to see that the person is alive and well, because anyone could make a phone call and say it. But dude, 30 minutes away, stops to sleep on the side? If you reported her missing, her car would also be noted. If she was on the side sleeping somewhere, wouldn't they have seen the car and well woken her up? Her story reeks. Don't fall for it, dude. She's still only a fiance. Don't make her a wife before this is cleared up with legitimate reasons. Because none of hers seem right. I flushed my phone down the toilet at the bar. It worked fine the next day, and it had been sitting there for a while. Her phone probably would have worked fine straight afterwards, but also, which toilet would she have dropped it in? That was another thing that had just crossed my mind. But either way, the car thing alone is fishy. Like you noted in a missing persons. They went the way she would have traveled. Something's up there. I'm just saying, in combination, I really don't buy her story. Not enough information, so you actually believe the story your fiancé is selling you? Look man, your fiancé cheated on you. She didn't fall asleep on the side of the road. Her brand new phone didn't stop working, she was with someone else. Stop being so naive. I don't believe her story, but I don't know why she would lie. We have a somewhat open relationship that only demands that she talk to me about any potential partners first. That's why this is so confusing. If she was interested in someone, she need only talk to me about it. Although exes are off limits. If exes are off limits and she's suddenly being shady about staying out with someone, then it's most likely an ex. You're not the asshole for calling the cops and being worried. But her story definitely stinks. Or it's the 17-year-old boy she just happens to drive hometowns away. Yeah, this is problematic and maybe illegal depending on your state. Not the asshole, so a 1-hour drive turned into nearly 12 hours? You know she's lying, right? If she was just driving the kid home, she would have been home around 9 p.m. and wouldn't have been driving in the middle of the night and gotten so tired she was falling asleep at the wheel. Her phone wouldn't have died and you wouldn't have been worried or had to call the police. Even if she stayed to chat with her friend, she would have been home around 10:30, 10:45, and a half an hour drive at that time for the average person should be no issue. My guess is that she dropped off the kid and then met up with someone, told you she was on her way home, stayed, ended up falling asleep and then panicked that she fell asleep and rushed home for 7 a.m. and gave you that BS story. Probably the kid's dad. There is no kid. She went to get some D. Not the asshole. You were right to call the cops, but I don't think that's the biggest issue here. So at 10:15, she was 30 minutes away, so that puts her arrival time at 10:45. Between 10:15 and 10:45 she got too tired to drive anymore, so she pulled over to rest. She proceeded to sleep for 8 hours straight through, since she returned at 7 a.m. Come on dude, you can't really be buying that she slept undisturbed for 8 hours on the side of the road when police were out looking for her car. She is lying. I don't know if she is cheating in you or is involved with drugs or gambling or what, but she did not sleep 8 hours on the side of the road when she was 30 minutes away from home. What I'm confused by, if original poster's phone stopped working at some point before she pulled over to nap, how did she make it home in time for her morning responsibilities? Did she happen to wake at the absolute correct time to finish her commute back? Because she certainly didn't set a phone alarm on a malfunctioning phone. I've slept in my car before during long road trips. It becomes almost impossible to keep sleeping once the sun comes up, so that timing could check out. But it's still insanely suspicious. Not the asshole. You checked up on her welfare. Yes, it's very admirable that she allegedly didn't drive while drowsy. But did she ever explain why it took hours to drive someone 30 minutes away? Like, what was she actually doing? Her story is completely unbelievable, sorry. Agreed. Her story doesn't add up. I think you should show her this post, our responses, the fact no one believes her flimsy lies, and ask what she thinks. I did that. She was very angry at me for posting a one-sided version of the story, but when I asked how she should rewrite it, she refused to answer. The fact that she claims it's a one-sided story, but has nothing to add to her side, kind of says it all. Sounds like she finally got smart enough to take the fifth. Not the asshole, but everyone on this sub knows your fiancé is lying to you. The question is, are you going to stick your head in the sand and pretend you believe her, or continue to let her lie to you, and be gullible? Time to start figuring out who her other boyfriend is. Not the asshole, you're a good partner, but she's obviously a lying liar who lies. Lying liar with lying sauce. So she left at 7:45 and initially said she'll be back by 9 o'clock? Then she says she's actually going to a different town, so she'll be another 30 minutes? Then she says she got tired, so pulled over on the side of the road? And then her phone broke? And she came home at the last possible minute before school? You said the town she went to was 30 minutes away, and you believe that she got so tired on a 30-minute drive home she decided to sleep in her car rather than go home? Question mark. Not the asshole. She's lying 100%. As a female, I am not pulling over to sleep on the side of the road in my car. Plus the cops drove the route, so they would have checked on a vehicle on the side of the road. No way her phone died, or how did she know exactly what time to be home to get the kids to school on time? As a female too, I have slept in my car, and it was so uncomfortable and I kept waking up every 10 minutes. She is definitely hiding something.